Welcome to Functional Medicine 2.0, our first episode. So excited to have you here. I'm Dr. Z, and welcome. We've got Nurse Drue here with us. Yay, Drue. Thanks for being
Hello.
here.
Thank
And
you so much for having me.
yeah, absolutely. Well, I know we both feel passionately about this, but our episode for today to kick it off is Functional Medicine is Lying to You, and I'm done pretending it's fine. And both of us, as practitioners and working in training so many practitioners, I know we have a lot to say about it. So let me just kick off sort of the start for our new listeners and welcome. So functional medicine isn't failing because the science is bad. Let's get that straight. It's failing because the system is. Practitioners are feeling overwhelmed and broken where they're supposed to be in an empowered state to help the patients who are feeling overwhelmed and broken. So it's not the practitioner, it's the model that's broken, and I'm done pretending it's fine. So functional medicine 2.0 is smarter thinking, better health, bigger impact, and we're going to unpack that today. Sound good?
Yeah, now this is such an exciting topic because not only have I seen this firsthand with some practitioners, but then also me personally. I definitely got caught up in the functional medicine or FM1 model. And after really transitioning into more of that critical thinking and more feeling more like an empowered clinician, taking care of myself and taking care of my patients, because that's the reason why we get into this in general. It's just been such an incredible change within my life. So this is like something I'm super passionate about.
I love it. Well, let's talk a little bit about, what was wrong with functional medicine 1.0, because a lot of it was very well intentioned. A lot of us were trained up in that model, myself included. But, there were some lies in there, like learn this pathway and you'll succeed. More clinical knowledge means confident. Right? Clinical knowledge equates to clinical confidence. More clinical knowledge means more income in the practice. That could not be more wrong. If you have great clinical knowledge and you can go down the like hormone cascade or the methylation pathway, you'll have a full practice and just keep learning and learning and learning. I don't know. Can you relate to that, Drew?
100%. I am somebody who is a researcher and a scientist at heart. And so it is very easy for me to just get caught into the pathways, the science, really connecting the dots. And that's something that a lot of people are very passionate about. They love it. But it was a big wake up call for me when I realized that the more that I learned, it didn't really equate how my practice was really continuing to grow.
Mhm.
So that's a big misconception and a big wake up call that helped me realize that the more that I continued to study, it did not just equate, okay, a bigger and a growing practice.
Oh, 100%. And sometimes I know you see this in clinical classes also, but practitioners, they get analysis paralysis, they get overwhelmed, too much information, and then they don't know what to do on Monday morning, 9:05, they freeze, right? You'd have a brilliant clinician who got it all, but then a broke practice because they didn't learn everything that was involved with running a business or marketing or how to communicate with the patient. We're going to talk a lot over the next couple episodes about biohacking human behavior and what does it take to really create change, because motivation and willpower are fleeting and we can't rely on that. And I feel like FM 1.0 was really like, give them the right information and then they will follow it. And no, that's not what happens. I would see also like high knowledge, low confidence, which would surprise people. I could have triple board certified surgeons behind closed doors suffering with imposter syndrome. Some people were having empty calendars or they were over testing to feel legit. But that was not the solution. We're going to talk about that. We're going to tackle that in one of the upcoming episodes, because we love labs, but labs are not the end all be all, right?
Mhm.
So really the person in front of you and the results they get is the end all be all. I guess bottom line, I think the cost is that we were training biochemistry librarians in functional medicine 1.0 and not leaders. And that's really what FM2 is built around, is being the leader.
Yeah. Absolutely. The leader of not only your practice, but a really good leader for your patients. A big thing that I'm super, super excited to get into is really about behavior change. Because, of course, we get into functional medicine because we want to serve. Everybody's here because we want to serve. We really want to help people. But, like you said, we learn about the protocols, and it's all just about, okay, I'm just looking for the right protocol to give to my hormone patient or to my menopausal woman or my IBS woman as well. But that's not the thing that is really going to generate the results. The science that is there, but it really is getting into and supporting their mindset, supporting their habits, and supporting that deeper part of them that wants that change, but really just needs to be met where they're at. So that way they're able to really see that change. And not only will that make them really, really supported when it comes to their patients and their patients feel supported, but then also will ultimately help their business and their practice grow because those results are really going to permeate down and will be really helpful to get other people within their practice.
Oh, 100%. It drives everything. First of all, the patient experiences the wins. And so they're going to have that trust and that relationship and then that buy in to go farther, not just that initial symptom they came in, but, oh, can I look at other things? What's this anti-aging thing? Could I actually feel good? Like I didn't want to come in and ask for that. That seemed like too much. And then, the hard part, how do we make it last?
Yes.
So yes, I think that is so important, and I'm excited about it. We're actually going to dive deep into that in our next episode too. It's definitely not just information. I
Mhm.
was thinking about this, if it was just information, every practitioner would be in perfect health, right?
Yeah.
Because don't they have
Mhm.
all the information? And so what does it take to orchestrate and create a life? And who do you have to be and what do you have to step into in order to start feeling better? I like to tell practitioners start with yourself.
Mhm.
Because that's going to be better anyway. You don't need to have arrived, but you need to be on the journey and you need to be modeling it. And every lesson you learn is you hit something that's not working or, oh my gosh, I said I was going to do this. Why am I not? Great. That's going to help you for dealing with real human beings in front of you. So I think
100.
that's super, super important. Um, but yeah, root cause alone is not enough. Like,
Mm-mm.
that used to be the challenge. That was the complaint from traditional medicine to FM 1.0. They don't deal with the root cause. They just put a band-aid on it. They just throw a pill at it. And then FM 1.0 was like, okay, we get the root cause. But then now what? Right?
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
the fact that patients have to pay for care, that helps in the sense that, all right, they take it seriously. They take it seriously enough that they're going to open up their wallet and pay for care. But then still, why would anyone ever pay for care and then not do the things? Um, and that's because it's harder than you think.
Right.
and, and FM 2.0 tackles that. It tackles what does it take to actually get the change. So this is sort of the reframe, since I know a lot of people is the first time they're hearing about it. But FM 2.0, rule number one is decision making. Functional medicine 1.0, memorization. That's not even real world. The truth is,
Mhm.
the patient doesn't care if you memorize something or you look it up. They just want answers, and not just answers, but what's going to create the true transformation and change in their life. So, rule number one, FM 1.0 was memorization. FM 2.0 is how to think.
Mhm.
Confidence comes from being able to make decisions that generate outcomes. Not only will you feel better and that this work is worth it, your patient's going to feel better. They're going to tell everyone else. And we want decisions that last, right? So, rule number one, stop training biochemistry librarians, start training clinicians who actually help people. So, you're going to hear us talk about this a lot, but that is super, super important. So, in FM 1.0, it was memorization. FM 2.0 is all about decision making. And that moves us right to rule number two, which is transformation. Root cause is easy. Behavior change is the real medicine. Data doesn't equal compliance. Results over explanation. So, rule number two is root cause detective work is easy. Getting patients to change is the real medicine. So, FM1, data, FM2, transformation. I love it. I'm here to talk about it. And then rule number 3 is really about scaling. Now, some people, they're going to have a micro practice, and there's nothing wrong with that. But FM 1.0 taught us this myth that it was just a practitioner open their doors, they can do everything on their own. But they're going to be the clinician, the coach, and the therapist, and the admin, and the sales, and marketing, and operations, the entire staff, and they're going to have lone wolf burnout. So rule number 3 is you can't scale a practice if you're the whole damn staff, right? So functional medicine 1.0, lone wolf practitioner, and that's why so many people are upset and complaining. I went to this training with, really fancy initials, and I saw this guru standing on the stage, and he was brilliant. I was really impressed with what he said. And now he went down this hormone cascade, and that one enzyme. Do you remember that enzyme he said that was so amazing? And then Monday, what? It
Mm.
means nothing, right? And how do we actually get the results? So, not just making good decisions, not just getting patient outcomes, but rule number 3, you can't scale a practice if you're the entire damn staff. And functional medicine 2.0 is built around teams, systems, coaches, what it means to be the CEO clinician. So, what do you think, Drew? Those are our rules.
Yeah, you know what? When you were sharing about those rules, something that I really appreciate about them is that it's almost like they're steps and they expand upon each other. Like rule number 1 is really just about critical thinking and really making those decisions. Because if you're going to be caught in that paralysis by analysis, and trust me, I've been there, you're not going to make that progression and you're just going to stick and stay in that stagnant space. And then when it really comes to, and once you're really able to think critically and make those quicker decisions, you're really going to help make those patients get those patients quicker and faster results and getting them to their transformation because that's all they are wanting from you. They want the transformation and you're going to be able to deliver them the how. So utilizing your knowledge, but then also at the same time pushing them along the way and making it actionable for them, which I'm really excited to get into the further episodes when it comes to the behavior change. And then, of course, as you start helping more people and really getting more people within your practice, you're going to need a scale. And so those rules are really able to just, take it stepwise, one rule at a time. And it really is a great recipe for success.
I love it. I love it. I'm excited for everything we've got planned and the work we're doing. One of the things I like to tell practitioners, which sometimes can be a little bit of a harsh reality check, is, um, the patients, they don't care about your initials or your advanced certification. They don't. They don't care about the lab test. They don't want another visit. They weren't looking for homework. They didn't want a chore on their calendar. They didn't want to pay money. They didn't want to swallow pills. They didn't want to pee on a litmus test, litmus paper. They didn't want to do any of those things. And someone's like, wait, that's just like so much of functional medicine. They will tolerate all those things to get a transformation. That's what they
Yeah.
want. That's what they're buying. That's what they're signing up for. So stop selling all of this process that doesn't even interest them to begin with. And you need to know it. And you need to make it efficient. You need to make it as easy as possible for them. But you need to understand they're there to buy the transformation. That's what they want. And it's not just a, doctor-patient relationship or practitioner-client relationship. This is a business owner to consumer, right? They're a buyer. And for our people step right out of the hospital system, that can be a shock.
Wow.
Because if someone else just filled all your patients for you and like, they didn't like something, grumbled, whatever, there's many more behind them. Insurance is paying all the bills. And it's not like it here, right? If you have someone, a consumer signs up to work with you and then they're not happy, they're going to take their business and their money elsewhere. So you actually have a greater responsibility and more ways that you need to please them to not only
Mm.
solve the medical mystery and orchestrate a plan where they can get better, but keep them happy as a consumer. It's actually a higher demand. So that can be a
Absolutely.
bit of a wake up call.
Yeah, for sure. Especially just like when it comes to not only, you mentioned a couple things as far as like communicating as far as really supporting them within their transformation and how to do that, like on a consultation call. When I coached a lot of practitioners and really helped them with their sales, one of the things that really try to get them out of the paradigm is not selling like an object. You're really not selling something like a lab. You're not selling the supplements. Those are a part of the process. But what the patient really and the potential patient really wants from you is the transformation. So a lot of it is really communicating the how you as the practitioner utilizing some of these rules as well as the decision making and the critical thinking and that efficiency that you have are able to really get them efficiently from point A to point B. And when it comes to the functional medicine in and of itself, transitioning from like the medical model, it can be a different type of conversation that you need to have with them because people are not used to purchasing their health, and it can make them more accountable. But as you said, it gives them that free agency to be like, okay, if this person didn't get the transformation in the fastest amount of time, or it just felt a little bit messy for me, they absolutely can take their business elsewhere, which means the respect for the rules is going to be super, super important
Mm-hmm.
because the more that you can think and the more that you're able to facilitate those faster transformations, there's no reason why you can't have a practice that sustains itself for lifetimes. Pass it down to your children and your children's children if they might be interested in that. But that's the type of legacy that I love to talk about, especially with what functional medicine FM2 is all about.
Yeah, and I think that's part of where FM 1.0 missed the boat. And I think part of it, I mean, a lot of good things came out of it too, but I think part of it is they were trying to forge the path and just even get some justification coming from traditional medicine to do things differently. But then they just didn't really look at what's now required for that
Yeah.
practitioner who's now a business owner and maybe has never been a business owner in their life before, and medical school or nursing school or chiropractic college or training as a physician assistant, it never taught them what it means to run a business, right? So
Mhm.
very important. I think that we just really call it out because FM 1.0 just stopped at like, well, you need to know stuff. You need to figure out the root cause. Okay, good start. But now, how do we get the results? Because the last thing we want is where I think we've been stuck, which is okay, it's starting to become mainstream. People understand what's possible here. Practitioners are in agreement. We have the research to back it. Wonderful. But
Mhm.
now, how do we move this human population into better health? And understanding the challenge of like the environment and system they're coming from. So we should talk about that a bit, but then
Yeah.
understanding the challenge of the human being. So I know we'll do more on that in a couple of
Yeah.
weeks, but the challenge of the human being is how do we get them to do the actual work?
Mhm.
And there's so many layers to looking at that. So information alone is not enough. But then also the challenge, like you mentioned about, paying, and most people don't want to pay. A lot of people expect to pay for a car or expect to pay for a house. And especially in the US, for the way health is not prioritized, we
Yeah.
actually have to start teaching people that investing in your health is normal,
Yes.
that you have the most amount of control over it. And I had to learn this myself because when I went the traditional medicine route, man, have I never been sicker. For those who don't know my story, I woke up sick one day, didn't know why. I had a lot to lose. I was running a multi-million-dollar business. And so I was a really good patient. I did everything I was supposed to do. And it got to the point where I had 7 specialists, 8 prescriptions. I was in the hospital every 3 weeks. It was costing over $720,000 a year.
Mm.
Um, Never felt worse. Had to close my business because I was sick and I didn't have answers. The specialists wouldn't even talk to each other. And this was how I found functional medicine, right? So I'm very grateful first to functional medicine as a patient, and then what it did for me. I had to reactivate my medical license, which I wasn't using at the time. It's a DC, and go order labs. I searched people out for functional medicine all around the world. I went back to school. I started taking courses, certifications. I think I read all of PubMed in 3 years. It was a lot of work to figure it out. So, there's that piece of, what do we need to learn and how do we need to think differently? And I was so sick, by the way, Drue. I think you know part of this story, but I
Yeah.
was declared permanently disabled by Social Security Administration, told I'd never work again. And I got off of that, thankfully, and re-entered the world of the living. But it was a dark period. I'm talking about it now and it sounds light, but it wasn't. It was 3 years of hell that I wouldn't wish on anyone. And so that was, really tough. And at that time when I couldn't like rub pennies together and I was trying to figure things out and having to prioritize health and learn so much, part of what drives me to create the systems we do is to make this easier on practitioners and patients, right? Um, but then, like, what I had to learn as far as not only prioritizing spending money on my health, um,
Mhm.
but making it part of life, and understanding what we're up against because we don't have it's not set up in the US. Healthcare isn't truly healthcare. It's like disease crisis care. And it
Yes.
has its purposes and it has some amazing things that it's accomplished. But when you rely on it to keep you healthy, or if you get like a serious lifestyle illness, and mine was an infection. So an infection that, you had to dig for. It wasn't easy to come up with. Um, Man, that's a tough place to be. If you're
Oh,
just
yeah.
going there and using copays and insurance, it's not even set up to have the time to bring the answer, right?
Yeah, and actually, there's a question that I have for you because I know we started off this conversation about how people might not be used to investing in their health. And so, from you, and I know I have my own personal experience being a patient in functional medicine and in traditional medicine, but how did you come to terms from that used to doing with the insurance and dealing with the old model into really investing into your health and also your education for that matter?
Well, it's funny because I love that you asked because I mean, I remember seeing a functional medicine practitioner and having to pay $300 for a visit and just about having a heart attack. I mean, I was on disability at the time, so it was like 927 a month and I was a single mom. And I was just like, what is happening here? Just that shock because that's all you know and what are you thinking about? And you're used to a $15 copay, just give me a prescription, let's go. And
Right.
now, I mean, quite honestly, as a little TMI and behind the scenes, but I might go, for an intensive week and drop 10 grand. Like things have evolved.
Mhm.
Okay. It has
Absolutely.
changed over the years. But in the beginning, and I'm not saying people need to do that. I have a primary immunodeficiency, so I have some complex issues that I juggle. But health is the priority, not because I was taught it and not because I want it, because with my personality type, I would love to just like hand you my body. You do whatever you need to do. I'll pick it up on Monday, and that's all I'm interested in. Like, I don't want to actually do any of it. So, the fact
Right.
that I went and got my doctorate, that I've had numerous practices, that I teach all these practitioners, this was not on my radar early on. But
Sure.
it's definitely part of my passion. So, it was suffering and necessity that drove all these decisions and not wanting to make people have to go through this
Mhm.
because I did persevere. But man, there were times I quit. There were times I quit and gave up over and over again. And I was like, this has to get better for patients. This has to get better for practitioners. I don't want them to have that. So when $300 felt like a fortune, I was still prioritizing health out of necessity because I couldn't function. Like it
Mhm.
had gotten that bad. I don't want it to get that bad for people, right? But it had gotten that bad. So I had to prioritize it. I had to change the diet. I had to clean out the pantry. I had to go pay for the practitioner and be like, oh my gosh. So it started small and it was inch by inch. And then, like I
Mhm.
said, it's evolved clearly over the years. But I'm driven to make it, better for people, even functional medicine, which I love, and it has served me so well. And you know this about me, Drue, right? Because we know each other behind the scenes, but where something's not working, I'm driven to solve it. So
Mhm.
functional medicine 2.0 is solving those FM 1.0 problems.
Yes, and these are some of the concepts that we've really started teaching already when it comes to our clinical classes and with our practitioners. And I will say, since we really started to adopt and really started to teach our practitioners how to think critically instead of just giving them a protocol, what we're doing and what we're creating is way more confident clinicians. And not only is it going to help with their patients and their transformation, but it trickles down and it helps them within their marketing. It helps them within their sales because all it is that really that communication, not only like within your mind, within your own mind, with making sure that you're able to make those decisions and clearly think through something that's very complex sometimes and help your patients and communicate that with your patients. But yeah, I love the premise of FM2 because I've already seen it work in practice with the teaching that we're doing, and I will say we've gotten so much great feedback, just the way we're doing more certifications, the way we're leading our classes, and not and also just even within my own personal practice and what I do with my patients as well. And it's just it's like a no brainer to be able to really switch over into that FM2 model and really following those rules because it's just been overall super helpful for my life. And I'm really, really excited to see how many of our practitioners and how our practitioners truly adopt that. And it's cool to see just like almost that light bulb come off, that light bulb moment. Is I love to see just the connections form in the brain, and that's the moment that I really know, wow, okay, they're really getting it, and they're going to take that knowledge or take that concept, apply it to somebody's life, and potentially save somebody's life. And that's just that's a ripple effect is super helpful. It's super exciting for me.
I love it. I love it. It's so good. And it's really like behind the scenes, it has driven what our software developers are working on and clinical team for developing tools and really understanding where you need to go to be successful in functional medicine 2.0. And I'll talk more about it at another time. These tools are phenomenal, but the tools don't replace that clinician as the leader and the thinker and the orchestrator of human behavior to get the change. So,
Right.
guys, I'm just going to give you a quick reminder. All right. So, Functional Medicine 2.0, welcome. So glad you're here. Smarter thinking, better health, bigger impact. So, rule number one, stop training biochemistry librarians, start training clinicians who can actually help people. Functional Medicine 1.0, all about memorization. Functional Medicine 2.0, decision making. And we're teaching how to do it clinically. We're building the tools to help you do it faster and more efficient than ever before. You're going to feel like, superhuman practitioner. And then rule number two, right? Root cause detective work is the easy part. We have tools now that will do that for you. Getting the patient to change is the real medicine. So FM1 was all about data. FM2 is all about transformation. Super important we stay grounded there. So we're going to be unpacking that a lot over the next few episodes. And then rule number three is you can't scale a practice, right? You can't grow a practice if you're the entire damn staff. Okay. So FM1 was lone wolf practitioner. FM2 is intentionality, right? The same way you're going to structure and orchestrate outcomes for your patients, you're going to structure and orchestrate a practice that works for your life. And that doesn't mean you have to do it all. So it's involving teams, systems, possibly coaches, allowing you to step into the role as the clinician being the CEO. So super, super important. I'm so excited. Thank you, Drue, for being here. It was awesome to have you be a part of our kickoff episode. And listeners, stay tuned. We have so much to do. This is Functional Medicine 2.0, and we're just getting started.
Yes, just getting started. Thank you so much, Dr. Z. This was such a great conversation. I'm super excited for all the conversations in the future and to walk people through this process. So I'm really excited.
Awesome. Let's do it. Thanks, everyone.